Everyone's talking about the big new blockbusters, the next Marvel movie, and yet another Star Wars spin-off. At the same time, the major content studios are constantly churning out new material to ensure the streaming lineup never runs dry. It's a real jungle out there. It's not easy to keep track of everything. But alongside the same old movie franchises, there are also some really exciting announcements that often get lost in the flood of news. We'll show you the wildest new movie projects you can look forward to. This movie news has racked up record views. Martin Scorsese is currently shooting a film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. The title of the film adaptation, What Happens at Night? In the story, the two superstars play an American couple who travel to a small snow-covered town in Europe to adopt a child. There, they encounter mysterious characters in a hotel. The cast also includes Mads Mikkelsen and Jared Harris, among others. Soon, the couple realizes that the entire surroundings are permeated by a strange and eerie atmosphere. Sounds like Shutter Island 2.0 to us. We're already very excited to see what thrilling twists the film has in store. Although the project is being developed in collaboration with Apple, it's also set to be released in theaters. An exact release date has yet to be announced. It will be the first Game of Thrones movie, Aegon's Conquest. The idea of adapting Aegon Targaryen's conquest of the King's Land has been in the works since 2022, but there are plenty of ideas for Game of Thrones spin-offs, and in this particular case, it remained unclear until recently whether the project would become a series or hit the big screen. Now it's official. The epic story is coming to the big screen. It tells the story of the violent unification of the Seven Kingdoms and the beginning of the Targaryens' 300-year reign. There's no release date yet. We'll keep you updated. There's one thing we can all agree on. Nicolas Cage has starred in a lot of terrible movies, and we love him anyway, because he always gives it his all. That goes for his B-movies just as much as for some absolute masterpieces. Among them is the arms dealer drama Lord of War. That's why we're incredibly excited about the planned sequel, simply titled Lords of War. In it, Yuri Orlov faces off against his son, played by Bill Skarsgård, who follows in his father's footsteps and has even fewer scruples. Like the original, the film comes from screenwriter and director Andrew Niccol. So the odds are good that we won't be getting a soulless sequel here, but rather another highly entertaining, bitterly dark thriller in the style of its predecessor. Lords of War is set to be released sometime in 2027. There are movies that get stuck in development hell for years. Metal Gear Solid is one of them. The film adaptation of the legendary games was announced back in 2012, but not much has happened since then. Until now. It was recently confirmed that the director's chair has been filled, with two directors no less, Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein, the directors of Final Destination Bloodlines. This should finally get this exciting project moving. The Metal Gear series is famous for its cinematic style and is packed with iconic characters, entertaining Hollywood cliches, and fascinating sci-fi technology. We're curious to see who will take on the lead role. In 2012, Oscar Isaac was originally slated for the part, but by now the casting question is likely wide open again. A small town is suddenly engulfed in a thick fog. A group of people is trapped inside a supermarket, but deadly monsters lurk outside. Stephen King's The Mist is one of the absolute horror classics and was already adapted for the big screen in 2007. Now there's set to be a new film adaptation, directed by Mike Flanagan. He's slowly becoming a King expert. In addition to numerous horror films, he's already tackled works by the cult author with Dr. Sleep and The Life of Chuck. However, the remake of The Mist is by no means intended to be a simple rehash of the first film. According to the director, while he did enjoy the original, he wants to adapt the source material in a significantly different way. We're curious to see what this statement entails. We're especially excited about the return of the Gremlins. After nearly 38 years, the little monsters are coming back to theaters in late 2027. Veteran director Chris Columbus, known for classics like Harry Potter and Home Alone, is taking the helm. He's very familiar with the Gremlins. He co-wrote the screenplay for the first film back in 1984. He's involved in the script again this time as well. Steven Spielberg is back on board as producer, and according to insider reports, Wednesday star Jenna Ortega is in talks for the cast. Above all, we're wondering how the Gremlins will be brought to life through special effects. A major charm of the old films lay in the quirky handmade puppets. The success of Part 3 will depend heavily on whether the creature's look and feel can win us over. It's also questionable whether the dark, anarchic humor of the predecessors will be replicated. We can only hope so. Keanu Reeves is back in the sci-fi genre. For his new film Shiver, he's teaming up with Deadpool director Tim Miller. The premise sounds wild. Reeves plays an unsuccessful smuggler tasked with completing a job in the Caribbean. Along the way, he has to deal with pirates, corpses, and bloodthirsty sharks. Plus, he's trapped in a deadly time loop. The wild genre mix is said to be reminiscent of the popular sci-fi action film Edge of Tomorrow. The theatrical release is currently scheduled for August 13th, 2027. J.J. Abrams is directing a film for the first time since the last Star Wars installment, and we can only hope that he'll regain his former strength with this one. The title of the new sci-fi adventure is The Great Beyond, and is said to be reminiscent of the 1980s film Starfighter. According to insider reports, it's about a book author whose fantasy world actually exists. The lead roles are played by Glenn Powell, Jenna Ortega, Emma Mackey, and Samuel L. Jackson. The Great Beyond is set to hit theaters on November 13th, 2026. Comedy legend Mel Brooks turns 100 this summer, and there's a very special gift to mark the occasion. After 40 years, Spaceballs 2 is finally hitting theaters, and some of the original stars are actually returning. Alongside Brooks as President Scroob, Bill Pullman as Lone Star, and Daphne Zuniga as Princess Vespa, Rick Moranis is also back as Lord Helmchen. This time, Josh Gad, who has primarily been known as an actor, is responsible for the jokes and directing. May the juice be with him. Spaceballs 2 is set to be released on April 23, 2027. This announcement has spread like wildfire. Bloodborne is becoming a movie. The extremely atmospheric video game is thus the second title from developer From Software to be adapted for the big screen. Elden Ring is also currently being made into a film. Bloodborne, however, is set to be an R-rated animated film. The nightmarish setting deserves a corresponding level of intensity. Gloomy buildings, grotesque creatures, and plenty of blood. The source material is not for the faint of heart. What's particularly exciting, YouTuber Jacksepticeye is in charge of the adaptation. Sony is likely using this to show how seriously they take the community when it comes to a project like this. YouTubers making the leap to the big screen? That seems to be a trend right now. Just think of the surprising success of Mark Fishback's Iron Lung, or the A24 film Backrooms by Kane Parsons. We naturally hope that, despite the lack of experience, a film will emerge that proves worthy of Bloodborne's cult status. Of course, these are just a few of the highlights coming up that we're looking forward to. We're sure you have a few titles of your own that you're excited about. Feel free to let us and the community know in the comments which ones they are. See you next time. Your Kino Check.